Cradle, Dogs of Fount, Chapter 18. She felt free now that her mech legs were off. Her bare thighs could breathe and drink in the draft of this old apartment living room. Of course she would have to put them on because her real legs ended just below the knees. She was on her screen looking at Skunky C playing Winged Fury, the new aircraft fighter game released last week. The lights from passing security drones painted her face with flowing blacks and whites as she sat against a yellowish stained wall in this vacant apartment. She had about 20 minutes before she had to go to the rendezvous point near the clean air zone. It was literally okay to walk anywhere in the city, flattened or not by now. The nanodust got rid of all the radiation, but the Chiefs were playing it safe. She flipped the game off to thumbnail size and stared at a picture of Charlie. He was holding an Antigua smart rifle and smiling wide on a mountainside overlooking the northern forest. She missed him deeply. She hoped he'd be home once she made it back from this batch of missions. Everyone was deployed at a moment's notice nowadays. Building shelters, convoys of food and medicine, fighting back the Indians, or natives as she called them. It was just about time, so she decided to put on her mech legs and head downstairs. She slid her thighs into the black flex steel sleeves, and the metallic mount snapped into place by the implants in her knees. The sleeves tightened just enough to restrict blood flow for an instant and then loosened up to the mobile and flexible fit that they were known for. She had them on the battery pack while she was waiting, and she looked at the screen to check their charge. She was at 63%, which was more than enough because she got there on an e-bike she signed out from the depot at the hangar to the south by the outlaw zone called Calypso. She slung her tomahawk rifle on her back and her two pistols in her back fanny holster. She never took off her balaclava even though she was sweating slightly. The battery pack was nearly the heaviest item, and she stowed it to a close-fitting pack. In the hallway, a rat skittered away from her and under some of the scattered rubbish. The stairs smelled like super strong and stale piss, even though she didn't hear anyone else in this building the whole time. Maybe more people were in the camps than I thought, she mused. She left the stairway on the first floor cautiously. Outlaws liked to hang out here, and the scavengers were a crapshoot. Some just wanted to take people out for the heck of it and take their stuff. Most of them were non-violent, but she would never be caught off guard. Her e-bike was in the alley behind the building to her right. No one was on the street as far as she could tell. It was very dark, and she had her night contacts in too. She probably needed to swap them out. It had been 4 days already. She started for the alley and heard a soft mechanical clacking. She started stepping quicker and turned the corner to see an outlaw or scavenger straddling her bike. She pulled one of her pistols from her back holster and aimed. "Hey," she warned. The thief barely looked back at her and zoomed off with a dull whine. For some reason, she decided not to shoot. Also, she didn't want to send any signs of her location, and she hadn't brought any attachments for the pistols. There was no time to waste now that she had no bike. The mark was going to be at the rendezvous in about 15 minutes, and if she didn't catch him there, she had no idea where else she could track him. She just remembered that her charge was at 63% and she would have to sprint all out to make it to the site in time. Crap. Just then the idea came to take the roofs. What she couldn't make in distance, she could secure at a good vantage point. She ran back into the building and into the stairway. She had no time to properly stow her tomahawk, so she threw it in the corner of the stairway and shot up the stairs. The mech legs showed no signs of letting up. They pumped up and down seamlessly all the way up to the 12th floor. She stopped buttery smooth and opened the roof access door. Great. There were buildings she could hop roof to roof from until she was above the mark, hopefully in 15 minutes. She charged the mech legs for takeoff boost and burst into a sprint and jumped with enough juice to make it to the roof to the east of her hideout building. She landed on the roof and immediately fell through it and down into the room below. She felt blood running under her left arm and then the pain hit. It hurt really bad, but she'd been through worse. She looked at her left arm and saw that the metal rod with a spiral pattern sticking through her arm. She knew she had to get moving again, but it would serve her best interest to take care of this right away. When she slid her arm from the rod, she nearly passed out from the friction grinding on the nerve. She charged the mech legs drastically until hot. She could feel the heat and knew it was time. She closed the inner arm with the exit room around the heat from her legs, and tears streamed out of her eyes. Next, the entry was much more easier to get through. She panted to catch her breath and took out her screen. The mech legs had 47% left. Crap. She got up and sprung back to the roof and immediately headed east again and jumped onto the next roof. No problem. The wind was billowing her hair back, and every swing of her arm was like glass grinding inside. She'd been through worse. She had jumped her 6th rooftop and needed to head south. The building adjacent was much taller than all the other buildings, so she couldn't hop over. It was a silvery white building with the jagged teeth of broken windows. That was the trick, she saw. She charged and then Supermaned across the drop and into the level window. She rolled and bumped against the far wall with a cracking thud. She jumped over an old and thin desktop and into the hallway. She saw the stair sign at the end of the hall. She looked and saw she had 5 minutes to sight the mark. Before she knew it, she was in the stairway, flying up the steps, and the rooftop greeted her with a cold wind, tossing her shiny jet black hair through the back of her balaclava. She walked to the southeast corner of the roof to catch her breath. She looked down, and the first look of the night was apparent. 2 cargo trucks were in the back parking lot with men loading military crates into the olive one with a dirty white canopy. That was all she needed to know for the moment. Now for the intercept. She jogged back to the stairway and descended at a pace to recuperate. There was a blocked hallway greeting her on the first floor, so she had to kick in the mailroom door and exit further from the corner that the exchange was taking place in than she wanted. She popped her head around the corner once she made it and saw the olive truck going down the street northbound at about 40 miles an hour. She went after it, knowing that the situation with her charge was not good, to say the least. She barely noticed the shuttered building she was whizzing by. She was intent on closing that gap and hopping into the back of that truck. For 1 millisecond, the right leg locked up and then popped into the next step. Screw it, she thought, and jumped with all she had. She hooked her arm around the left canopy arch rod and pulled herself into the cargo area. She looked at her screen, 5%, flashing red. She quickly took out the charging bank and hooked up. Suddenly, she was thrown against the fabric of the canopy as the truck turned right. She smelled the oil of the military equipment on the fabric. No time. She disconnected from the bank and hung from the back, pulling out a half-sized katana. She realized that there was a chance he'd see her in his mirrors, but it was a necessary risk. She quickly slashed the tire, and the truck jerked, wobbled, and shrieked to a halt. She exited and hid by the rear passenger side of the truck. She heard him get out as she crept towards the front. She peeked over the warm hood, and 2 shots barked and whizzed by her head. Without thinking, she kicked the truck so hard that it knocked the man down and she collapsed. No power left at all. If asked how she did it, she wouldn't be able to tell you. But she crawled with only her arms with such agility that the man couldn't get off another shot before she buried the katana into his shoulder, draped on top of him. "Arg!" the man screamed. "What's the name of the outlaw in Fount dealing the weapons?" she asked firmly. "I don't know what the heck his name is." "That's not good enough, sir." She yelled and twisted the katana with a few crunches, and she could literally feel his defiance leave through the wound.